Bezrat Hashem, the Gemara this morning, Gittin, page 64b. The Gemara discussing about a little girl which wants to get divorced. In the olden days, they would promise the little girls to men, and they would get married. Like you see in the Torah, Yitzchak Avinu married Rivka when she was 3 years old. He was 40 years old, and she was 3 years old. The Rashi explains they did not live as a husband and wife, but she was promised already. She got a ring, and he kept her till the age of 13, and then they started to live together as a husband and wife. The same thing in the Mediterranean, in Arab countries, even in Jewish communities, they would promise the little girls 3-4 years old, right? Why? There's a lot of factors. First, that they were scared the girls shouldn't be captured by the goyim. Second, they always want to make sure she doesn't do any commit any adultery, right? You see today what's going on, right? The girls take their time, boys take their time. They have time. They don't want to get married. They want to finish studies. Then they want to have a situation, and then they need parnasa, right? When did they get married? They have time to get married. They get married 30, 40, right? And when you're older, it's very hard to get married because you have your ideas and you have your habits. Everything looks to you different. Everything looks suspicious. Everything looks you look with a different eye. So it's very hard for you to get married. The younger you get married, you grow together, right? What's younger? Today they say 18, 19, 20 is a perfect age to get married. The couple grows together. There's so much Yetzirah out there, right? They live as a husband and wife, and you save a lot of problems, right? Sometimes it's not the case. She has to finish school. He has to finish school, whatever. But as a general rule, the younger the couple gets married, the more they're going to enjoy their life. They're going to have babies when they're young. They're going to be young grandparents. Imagine you get married very old, till your wife gets kids, if she can get kids. After the age of 37, doctors tell you to a lady to get pregnant, it's dangerous. And then they have to take a culture of the meiotic liquid, right? All those things, it's problems. Why? Because you waited so much. So over here in the Gemara, it's speaking about a case when the girl got married when she was very young. Now she doesn't want any more of her husband, so he has to give her a get, right? So he wants to give her a get, but the question is, could you give a get to such a young girl? So says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, our sages teach us, Ktana ayudat lishmor et gita mitgareshet. If she's able to keep the get as a precious document, you can give her the get. So it means if you give her a paper and tell her, hey, listen, it's a very important document, you have to keep it. If you see she goes and she takes it and she throws it in the garbage, you cannot give her a get. You'll have to wait till she gets older. If she takes it and you see she keeps it in her closet, in a file, or somewhere more important, so then you know you can give her the get. Says the Gemara, and says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Si, Tzror vezorko gozlot lo. What about a small kid, right? Now, in Judaism, we have what we called acquisition act, which means, let me give you an example. When a couple gets married, if you pay attention, the night when they get married, the rabbi would come and sign off the ketubah. So you need 2 kosher witnesses. Kosher witnesses means they don't shave with a blade, right? They keep Shabbat and they eat kosher and they do what needs to be done. Now, once you have those 2 kosher edim, 2 kosher witnesses, right? The rabbi tells the Chatan, do you agree to the sum written in this paper? Which means, let's say he says, in case of a divorce, he'll pay her $50,000, $100,000, right? This is symbolic. Don't take it literally. And the less you write, the more problems you're going to save yourself. Normally, we write in the ketubah $52,000. Why? Because this sum is symbolic. 52 in valerical number is the word ben. 50 is noon and 2 is bet, ben, which means we wish them to have a baby boy the coming year right after they get married. So the question is, the rabbi takes the ketubah, and before making the chatan, the groom, sign, he makes an acquisition act, which means what? He takes an handkerchief, he gives it to the Khatan, he says, do you agree everything written in this paper? And the Khatan says yes, so he tells him in front of the two edim, of the two witnesses, you're going to pick up this handkerchief, and that's called an acquisition act, and that means that you agree in everything, right? It's written over here. In Judaism, it's not enough to say, yes, I agree, or to just sign. You have to have this act. If you don't have this act, it's like you did nothing. The same thing is for testimonies. If somebody wants to make a testimony, after 120, he wants to give his kids all kinds of presents or certain people, according to the Torah, you're supposed to go to a notary to make your testimony, but you're supposed to go to a rabbi to make an act of acquisition, right? Which means you're giving over a few things, but that's only with an act of acquisition with two witnesses and signed on a paper. And a lot of things work this way. So says the Gemara, Katan, a young kid, right? Kedi make an act of acquisition, right? So the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yassi, tzro v'zorko. If you give him, let's say you give him a pebble, you give him a little stone, right? And he throws it, but you give him a goz, you give him a walnut, and notlo, and he keeps it for himself, he can make an act of acquisition for himself, but not for others. But if you ask him the object that you gave him after a little while, he can make an act of acquisition, say for himself, say for others. When Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Asi stole it in front of Rav Shmuel, he told him no, da veda achati, which means no, a small kid cannot make an act of acquisitions. You need to have an adult 13 years old and older. So today's lesson is that it's not enough to sign, it's not enough to consent and say, yes, I agree. You have to make an act of acquisition to show that you're really willing to do what you're about to do. Have a great day. Amen ve amen.